Hello everyone and welcome to Dutchgreybeard. Business people like to talk about plan, do, check, act when they want to emphasize how well they're monitoring the quality of their business processes. I thought I'd apply the same principle on my reading plans for 2024. At the end of December, I published a video about my reading plans for this year, 2024. I estimated that I would be able to read about 50 fantasy books this year. So I browsed through my TBR bookshelves and picked 50 titles, feeling like a kid in a candy shop. As always with my TBRs, I was very skeptical. Not so much about the number of fantasy books, but more on the actual titles. I tend to follow the spur of the moment and pick a new book to read, regardless of whatever I may have planned. Still, I would say that my planning was sound. These last 4.5 months I've been working on the do part, which is reading. Things were going pretty smooth until I hit a snag halfway through April and found myself in something of a reading slump. But that's all in the past, so it is time to check how my plans are coming along and see if I need to act on that to make sure that I'm still on the right track. We're about halfway through May at this point in time. So far I've read 32 books. Looking good, you might say. The only thing is 13 of these do not belong to the fantasy genre. I read way more non-fiction and children's books than I had anticipated. This means that I have read only 19 fantasy books so far. If I want to stick to the number of books planned, I still have 31 left to read in the remainder of this year. I really need to up my fantasy game a bit if I want to hit that goal. But a lot can happen in 7.5 months. Let's first collect the matches, meaning the planned books versus the one I've actually read. Of the 50 planned titles, I have read 8. They are The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle, Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb, the final book in the Farseer trilogy, one Discworld novel, The Gathering Storm, number 12, and Towers of Midnight, number 13 in the Wheel of Time, Dragonflight by McCaffrey, Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, and finally Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. These I can eliminate from my planning. That leaves me with 42 titles, which is a bit too ambitious considering my reading tempo. Having read 11 fantasy books that were not planned, I think it's only fair if for each of these I can eliminate one title from the original planning. Instead of one Discworld novel, I read 4. For these extra 3 reads, I will erase the Tourneyman trilogy from Hobb's Realm of the Elderling series. One trilogy of big books by this author sounds a bit more feasible to me. I planned on starting with Janny Wurts' Wars of Light and Shadow series with the first 2 books. My change of plan here is that I want to read her works in publication order. So instead of reading The Curse of the Mistwraith, I read her debut novel, Sorcerer's Legacy. You can check out my reading experience of that book over here. My next Janny Wurts reads will be her first trilogy, The Cycle of Fire. After that, I will be reading the much-praised Empire trilogy, which she wrote with Raymond E. Feist. I believe that I can do that in the remainder of this year. To recap this little juggling act with books, I can eliminate one book because I read the unplanned Sorcerer's Legacy. For the added books of the Cycle of Fire trilogy, Stormwarden, Keeper of the Keys, and Shadowfane, I can also eliminate 3 books of the original plan. That's 4 books to be eliminated in total. These will be The Curse of the Mistwraith and The Ships of Meria, the second book in the series, because with 2 other Janny Wurts trilogies, I will not be getting around to these chunkers. I will also move the 2 Chris Wooding books, The Amberblade and The Shadow Casket, to my 2025 plans. Moving on. Instead of reading one book in the Dragonriders of Pern series by Anne McCaffrey, Dragonflight, I read 6 of them. Here's my reading experience of those 2 trilogies. This gives me leave to take 5 titles off my initial plan and make it a bit more realistic. At this point, I am beginning to experience some anxiety because I actually don't want to eliminate any of these books. I'm almost done reading The Wheel of Time, and I had planned to read The World of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. My guess is I won't be too eager to dive into this one anytime soon. So that one can go. Also, 5 books by Guy Gavriel Kay seems like a lot. How much I love this author. Even though I cannot wait to read A Song for Arbonne and The Lions of Aurasan, they will have to wait until next year. Before eliminating the remaining 2, let's first see how many books I can skip altogether. The other unplanned book I read is The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch, and I listened to the audio of Duncton Quest by William Horwood. This means I have to remove 4 more books from my initial plan. With one of the friends of the channel, I will be buddy reading Red Rising by Piers Brown later on this year. And chances are that I'll continue reading this first trilogy right away. So they stay. Also, Fantastis by George MacDonald is on the docket for a buddy read, and his small book The Princess and the Goblin will stay as well. I have to keep some quick reads on here. This is not an easy choice. All of the series in this picture I really want to get started on. Perhaps it is best if I just remove the 3rd book of some trilogies. Okay, I'll take off Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb and The Silver Tide by Jen Williams. 2 more. Even though they are very big books, I want to continue in Sanderson's Cosmere and finally read the first 2 books in the Stormlight Archive. Before or after Words of Radiance, I'll be reading 2 novellas, Sixth of Dust and Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. Both are in the Arcanum Unbounded collection. Sebastian de Castell? No, I really want to start his Greatcoats series. The same thing goes for the Drist books and the 2 Tad William books here at the bottom. The final 2 I'm taking of this planning are The Dreaming Tree by C.J. Cherryh and Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman, the 3rd book in the Scythe trilogy. Rearranging this picture results in this new plan for the rest of the year. 31 books that I will probably be reading. If that is going to happen before the end of this year remains to be seen, of course. At least nobody can say I didn't follow through on plan, do, check, act. Thank you very much for watching this video. Until we meet again at Dutchgreybeard.